It is 360 BC in ancient Athens. The philosopher Plato, in the final years of his life, sits among scrolls and candlelight. With deliberate strokes of a reed pen, he writes not of Socrates nor politics nor the Republic, but of a land beyond the known world, a land larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined, a land that glowed with bronze and orichalcum, a land lost to time, devoured by the sea. He calls it Atlantis. He describes an island empire located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, modern-day Strait of Gibraltar. It was a marvel of symmetry and splendor, concentric rings of land and water, bridges that arched over canals, golden temples to Poseidon gleaming in the sun. There were elephants and hot springs, aqueducts and racecourses, and ships that swarmed across the oceans like bees. Its kings descended from gods. Its people were brilliant yet proud. And then, in a single day and night of misfortune, it disappeared. So begins one of the greatest legends in human history. The legend of Atlantis, as we know it, comes solely from the writings of Plato, specifically his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. Unlike other myths passed down orally or found across disparate cultures, Atlantis springs from one voice, one pen, and yet it has captivated humanity for over 2 millennia. In Timaeus, Plato introduces Atlantis almost casually as a tale passed down from Solon, the great Athenian lawmaker, who had allegedly heard it from Egyptian priests during his travels. They spoke of a great empire across the sea, Atlantis, that once waged war against ancient Athens and the known world. But it is in Critias that Plato fully fleshes out the city, its geography, its culture, and its downfall. Atlantis, he writes, was a vast island, larger than Libya and Asia Minor together, situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules. The land was rich in resources, precious metals, fertile plains, dense forests, and animals of every kind. The city itself was a marvel of engineering, circular bands of land and water surrounded by massive walls connected by bridges and canals. At the very center stood a temple to Poseidon, their patron god, where a golden statue of the sea deity rode a chariot drawn by winged horses. The Atlanteans were said to be a noble and just people, descended from gods. Poseidon himself had fathered their royal bloodline through a mortal woman named Cleito. The island was divided among 10 kings who ruled harmoniously, their laws engraved on pillars of orichalcum, a mysterious metal said to shine brighter than gold. But time eroded their virtue. As the generations passed, the Atlanteans became greedy, arrogant, and corrupt. They sought to conquer beyond their domain, stretching their empire into Europe and Africa. It was then, Plato says, that Athens rose in defiance, an ideal state, virtuous and brave, repelling the Atlantean aggression. And then, as if by divine justice, Atlantis was swallowed by the sea. In a single day and night of misfortune, all your warlike men in a body sank into the earth, and the island of Atlantis, in like manner, disappeared in the depths of the sea. Critias, Plato's tale, is powerful not just for its scale, but for its purpose. Many scholars believe it was intended as a moral parable, a metaphor for the dangers of hubris, imperial ambition, and the fall of civilizations that lose their virtue. Others argue that Plato was referencing older, forgotten stories, perhaps echoing a real cataclysmic event whose memory lived on in distorted form. And so the debate begins. Was Atlantis allegory or history misremembered? The mystery of Atlantis didn't fade with Plato's death. It ignited centuries of curiosity, speculation, and scholarly dispute. Even in ancient times, Plato's contemporaries were divided on how seriously to take the tale. Aristotle, Plato's most famous student, is said to have remarked skeptically, "He who invented it also destroyed it." To him, Atlantis was simply a philosophical device, a grand parable to demonstrate moral decay and the fragility of civilization. Yet not all agreed. Crantor, a philosopher who studied at Plato's academy a generation later, reportedly traveled to Egypt to verify the story. He claimed to have seen inscriptions that matched Plato's account, though modern historians remain doubtful of this report's reliability. Other Greek historians and geographers were similarly intrigued, occasionally referencing lost lands or great cataclysms in their own writings. The real question that has haunted scholars ever since is this: did Plato invent Atlantis whole cloth, or was he inspired by older traditions and real disasters passed down through generations? Some researchers believe Plato may have drawn upon folk memories of actual events, like the destruction of a city by earthquake, tsunami, or volcanic eruption. Others suspect he was influenced by stories of the Sea Peoples, the Minoan collapse, or earlier flood myths like those in Mesopotamian or biblical lore. Through the medieval and Renaissance periods, interest in Atlantis waned, buried beneath theological texts and more pressing earthly matters. But in the 19th century, a surge of romanticism, exploration, and archaeology rekindled the legend. Writers like Ignatius Donnelly famously argued in his 1882 book, Atlantis, the antediluvian world, that Plato's account described a real prehistoric civilization that influenced all later cultures. Today, Atlantis sits at the curious intersection of myth, memory, and the search for origins. Archaeologists mostly dismiss the city as fictional. There is, after all, no concrete evidence to support its existence. But to many historians, that lack of evidence doesn't rule out the influence of real-world catastrophes remembered and reshaped by oral traditions. The mystery endures because Atlantis is more than just a lost city. It is a mirror held up to the human imagination, asking what happens when power outgrows wisdom, and whether greatness can ever truly vanish without a trace. While Plato left only vague geographical clues, Atlantis was beyond the Pillars of Hercules. This hasn't stopped theorists, explorers, mystics, and scientists from trying to pin its exact location. Here are some of the most popular and persistent theories. One of the most academically supported hypotheses links Atlantis to the Minoan civilization on the island of Thera, modern-day Santorini. Around 1600 BC, Thera was devastated by a massive volcanic eruption, one of the largest in recorded history. The explosion collapsed part of the island into the sea, creating a tsunami that battered the surrounding Aegean world. The Minoans were known for advanced architecture, vibrant frescoes, maritime power, and an extensive trade network. They fit many of Plato's descriptions of an advanced, seafaring society. While no concentric rings have been found, the scale and suddenness of the disaster align eerily with Plato's tale of a mighty civilization destroyed in a single day and night. Among the more fringe theories is the idea that Atlantis lies beneath the ice of Antarctica. Proponents argue that Earth's poles have shifted dramatically over millennia, a process known as crustal displacement, which could have moved Atlantis from a temperate region to its current icy isolation. This theory gained attention in the 20th century through speculative works and conspiracy circles. While it has little archaeological backing, it plays on the allure of the truly unreachable, a land trapped in ice, its secrets preserved. A relatively recent internet sensation, the Richat structure in Mauritania, also called the Eye of the Sahara, has been proposed as a candidate for Atlantis. This massive geological formation consists of concentric circular ridges that bear a striking visual resemblance to Plato's descriptions. Proponents point to the nearby presence of mountains, the approximate dimensions mentioned in Critias, and even ancient water routes that suggest the region might once have been greener. Critics argue it's a natural geological dome, not a man-made city. Still, the mystery endures. In the turquoise waters near Bimini Island lies a formation of underwater stones resembling a road or wall. Discovered in the 1960s, the Bimini Road ignited speculation that Atlantis might lie in the Caribbean. This theory gained momentum due to Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, who predicted that remnants of Atlantis would rise near Bimini in the 1960s. While geologists have since argued the formations are naturally occurring beach rock, the connection between prophecy and geology continues to intrigue believers. Each of these theories taps into something deeper than just curiosity. They echo our desire to uncover forgotten greatness, to prove that civilization is older, wiser, and more mysterious than we've imagined. The debate over Atlantis reaches beyond maps and sonar scans. It dives straight into the tension between mythology and scientific evidence. Was Atlantis a real civilization lost to catastrophe, or a fictional warning carved into narrative? Most mainstream archaeologists and historians lean toward the latter. They argue that there's no archaeological record of such a grand civilization existing where Plato placed it. No ruins, no texts, no artifacts, nothing that would indicate a city of such scale and technological prowess. Moreover, Plato never referenced Atlantis in any of his other works, and no other ancient Greek writer contemporaneous to him did either. This has led many scholars to conclude that Atlantis was a thought experiment, not a historical memory. Yet others are not so quick to dismiss it. They point out that many cultures carry myths of sunken lands, great floods, or fallen civilizations, from the biblical Great Flood to the Sumerian tales of Eridu and Akkad, to the Hindu stories of Dwarka and the land of Kumari Kandam. Could Atlantis be an echo of a real disaster passed down in allegorical form across time and culture? Advocates of this view see Atlantis as symbolic but not necessarily fictional. They propose that Plato may have fused multiple old stories and real-world observations to create a composite myth that warned against hubris and imperial excess. Perhaps it was based on distant memories of the Minoans, or a synthesis of lost seafaring cultures erased by climate or cataclysm. Ultimately, Atlantis occupies a unique space. It is a philosophical mirror, a mythic template, and a romantic obsession all in one. Its persistence in cultural consciousness speaks to something primal, a longing for a lost golden age, a belief that we were once more noble, more advanced, more in harmony with nature and the divine. Whether Atlantis was real or not might be beside the point. What matters is that it feels real to us, so real we continue to search. The myth of Atlantis hasn't merely endured, it has thrived, evolving into a cultural cornerstone that stretches across centuries and mediums. Whether viewed as a metaphor for lost greatness or a literal underwater kingdom, Atlantis has become one of the most recognizable legends in Western civilization. In literature, Atlantis has inspired everything from 17th century utopias to modern science fiction. Francis Bacon's New Atlantis imagined a society of advanced knowledge and discovery. Jules Verne sent Captain Nemo beneath the waves to witness Atlantean ruins. Countless novels, comics, and fantasy series, from the Silmarillion to Stargate Atlantis, have drawn from Plato's vision. In cinema and animation, the fascination continues. Disney's Atlantis, The Lost Empire 2001, turned the myth into an adventure tale blending mysticism with steampunk aesthetics. In the superhero realm, DC's Aquaman hails from Atlantis, portrayed as an undersea civilization that both mirrors and critiques the surface world. Even conspiracy theories and esoteric philosophies have embraced Atlantis. In the 19th and 20th centuries, spiritual movements such as Theosophy claimed that Atlanteans possessed psychic abilities and spiritual wisdom. Some fringe theorists connect Atlantis to extraterrestrials, lost technology, or ancient energy grids. Atlantis has become a symbol of perfection lost, of knowledge buried, of warnings unheeded. It speaks to the deepest parts of our cultural memory, the idea that somewhere, somehow, we were once more than we are now. From textbooks to video games, from Plato's scrolls to Hollywood blockbusters, Atlantis is proof that myths do not die, they evolve. Atlantis is more than a place, it is a reflection. A mirror held up to humanity's collective longing for wisdom, balance, and greatness now lost. Whether Plato's tale was fact or fable, the idea of Atlantis continues to fascinate us because it taps into our deepest hopes and fears. That civilizations can rise to unimaginable heights and fall just as quickly. Perhaps Atlantis was a parable meant to warn future societies of the dangers of arrogance and decadence. Perhaps it was the echo of real-world catastrophes, remembered in legend and shaped by time. Or perhaps it was something else entirely, a glimpse into a lost age that we have yet to rediscover beneath the ocean's surface. What endures is not certainty, but the search. And in that search, in sonar maps, in ancient texts, in the stories we tell, we keep Atlantis alive. So ask yourself, if Atlantis once existed, what else have we forgotten? And if it didn't, why does its story still hold such power over our imagination? The waves may have buried the city, but the legend still